Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are watching an all-new Season 3 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by the Buzz Conference and Kits Keep in Touch Systems. By the way, did you grab your tickets for the next Buzz Conference event yet? It is literally coming up this week. It is called Connect and Collaborate. This is a virtual event taking place again this week, March 25th and 26th. And well, this is where experience and innovation meet. The lineup is packed. The speakers are going to be amazing. The value and the content are going to be second to none. And you're going to love this. It is absolutely free for you. So make sure you save the date, March 25th and 26th, and book those tickets now. If you happen to be listening to this after the fact, well, stay tuned to the Buzz Conference. You can find out everything you need to know by following the Buzz Conference on Instagram. So it's at the Buzz Conference on Instagram, or of course going to www.thebuzzconference.com. Again, all the registration links and all the information is in their bio on their website. You can find out everything you need to know. I encourage you to keep tabs on what the Buzz is up to. And as always, Kits is with us today as well. Kits offers a fully loaded cross-channel marketing suite for the real estate industry, including tools to help you manage your business, build mindshare, and drive even more sales. You can learn more on my site, mindshare101.com, by clicking on Marketing. I also want to share that we are still working to get to 100 reviews on iTunes. This is amazing. We are getting there. We are pushing, and I thank you, and I want you to be a part of it. I mean, if you already have, thank you. If you have not yet, please take a minute, go to iTunes, rate the show, leave a review. It is that easy, and of course, thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 122. As a value-driven thought leader, her focus is to meaningfully evolve the real estate ecosystem through the interface of technology and relationships. With a bent for data-driven technology solutions, her professional efforts focus on streamlining the real estate transaction from search to keys, with an eye to enhancing value to both the consumer and the real estate practitioner. As an industry executive and leader, she fuses data-driven decision-making and a penchant for critical thinking with bold strategy and a lens on execution. She began her real estate career back in 2009 as the Property Information Services Manager for the Association of Regina Realtors. And then in 2014, she was appointed Chief Executive Officer of the Okanagan Mainline Real Estate Board, a post she held until last year. Now she is Managing Partner at Reach Canada. Reach is a growth program that offers education, mentorship, and exposure for technology companies aiming to launch into the real estate industry, accelerate their business, and expand into adjacent markets such as insurance, mortgage, and financial services. This week on the show, I am joined by Lynette Kiyoski. Lynette, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Hey, David.
How's it going?
It's amazing. I thank you for having me. Can you read that bio for me every time? Because it's probably the longest, most boring bio ever. But when you read it, it actually sounds kind of exciting. So I'm excited to be me today.
Well, yeah, no, it's good. We like to have fun at the top of the show. I was telling you, we've got a little intro that we read it off. No, it's good though. It's it's funny because I'm going to ask you to share your background in a second, but I'm going to give some quick background here. This was a really cool story. To everybody watching and listening right now, you guys know, as you're tuned into Mindshare on a regular basis, I talk about making your calls and I talk about getting out there and connecting with people and using the different ways to communicate and always building that Mindshare. And real briefly, last year, just before hell broke loose,
pandemic,
the world froze over. I was on my way to Niagara Falls to speak at the OREA Reality Conference. Anybody going OREA, Ontario Real Estate Association? And as I'm on my way there, I am making my calls. I'm in the car and I've got probably, an hour and a half of drive ahead of me. And so I'm doing my calls and I'm making my calls. And I go ahead and I call the Okanagan Mainline Real Estate Board. I'm like, hi, I want to introduce myself. Who's in charge of education? Yada, yada, yada. And one thing leads to another. I speak to this really, really nice girl on the phone. And then she says to me, she goes, I don't know how it came up, but she said, Lynette's in Ontario right now. I said, oh, I'm in Ontario. What's she doing in Ontario? She's like, oh, and I'm like, who's Lynette? She's like, oh, she's our CEO. I'm like, oh, that's cool. What's she doing here? Oh, she's at a conference. Which conference? She says to me, she's at the reality conference. And I'm going, oh, that's where I'm going right now. She's like, oh my gosh. She's like, hopefully maybe you guys can meet. I'm like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. She's like, you know what? I'm going to send her a message. Maybe you guys look out for each other. I'm like, all right. Anyhow, I think it was day 1 or day 2. I'm going to get prepared to get on stage. Here comes this lady. She's getting prepared to get on stage. And so we decide, obviously, let's introduce ourselves. My name is David. What's yours? I'm
Lo
Lynette.
and
You're
behold,
like,
I
no,
know
you're
that
not.
was too funny.
It
was too funny.
That was a small world.
Yeah.
That was really, really cool.
Like just one little sort of correction, I suppose, to the story. I was no longer the CEO at the real estate board,
okay.
but because of the relationship and because it is such a small industry, to your point, obviously stayed really closely in touch with, all the team and the staff there. And it was funny because I got a similar note. Oh, hey, are you on your way to, you're on your way to reality. Just talk to David Greenspan. He's going to be there too.
Isn't that funny, right?
Yeah, it was just like the whole thing was just ironic.
And like, never mind.
Yeah, and then we were on stage, one right after the other.
Literally, that was the craziest part about it. It wasn't like we just bumped into each other. It was like we're literally like piggybacking on stage with each other. Which I thought was cool. Very cool. But hey, I just mentioned about your background, like your sort of what you do in the industry. But can you give our audience a little bit more insight? Who are you? Your experience in the industry, just sort of what's the background there?
Sure. So, that amazing bio that you read at the beginning kind of gives the chronological order of my trajectory in the industry. But really, I came into the industry from the association side of the business. So I have no background in real estate whatsoever. I'm from the prairie, so born and bred in Saskatchewan. Lived there right up until I got the post here in the Okanagan. So
hey, is it true that you can watch your dog run away for 3 days in the prairies?
Well, yes.
No,
yes, it is.
I've done enough road trips. People out there, they're like, yeah, we love it. You're going to love it. Anyway, sorry. You said
it. But no, it is. I mean, that is the one thing I will tell you I do miss is the expansive skies in the Okanagan. I live in the valley, right? And so you don't have that opportunity. We have some amazing skies out here, but
I was going to say the Okanagan Valley is not so bad. I was just through there
it's all right. I mean, Lake Okanagan is right here. It's all right. It's all right.
She's looking at it right now.
I am actually. Pictures. Sorry, a little distracted. No, but so that's where I, grew up, came from a farming background. And so my educational background is in agricultural economics. And really where I cut my teeth from a career point of view was in policy and working in policy design, not in government, but to advocate for policy design. And what interested me during that period of time was that I worked for a really dysfunctional organization. And so I got into organizational development and org structure and, again, really dysfunctional. And so I thought, when that ended, I'm kind of done with agriculture. It wasn't really great kind of in the early 2000s. And so I'm going to go looking for something else. And I kind of like this organizational stuff. So the real estate board in Regina was looking for a manager of property information services. They created this role kind of a succession, but because technology was really evolving in the industry, they wanted a bit of oversight from the technology point of view. So I thought, I'm going to go work for this industry that's really well structured and functional so that I can get some really good experience in, what a well-structured organization looks like. So that was kind of my thinking around joining, the association in Regina. And from that point on, it's really been this, this kind of rocket ship, to be honest. In some instances, it feels like we haven't really done a lot, but I feel like I've learned so much in this industry around real estate, and not just around real estate, a lot around the psychology of real estate, a lot around the psychology of, that the transaction, but of course, how the industry operates. And, real estate, the industry has treated me really, really well. I have made all of my best friends in the industry, or that I have now since I have been in the industry. And it's led me to great opportunities like this and, having the ability to just really expand my horizons on a number of levels. So not just professionally and personally, but really understanding the world of technology. And I think more than that, David, how to add value and create value. I think that's the place that the real estate industry really shines across any sector is it is all about value creation, which is just personally, really, really attractive and appealing to me.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think there's a world of opportunity here to do some really amazing things with people, and it's because you're always helping different people. There's always a different,
Totally.
person on the other side of that deal, that transaction, be it, the cooperating agents, be it, your buyer, your seller, are they clients, are they people are they a referral from somebody, is it a total stranger, you know, um, demographics, like where are they from, what's the background, what's the
Totally.
culture, how are you operating. So yeah, I'm with you, it's incredibly diverse, which is really exciting. Did you ever sell real estate or no?
I did not. I have
Okay,
not ever sold real estate.
but being in the space, you've gotten to really understand, and I mean, holding a CEO position as well, you've been, call it, I don't know if exposed is the right word, but yeah, well, maybe exposed, but to a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different technologies, a lot of different solutions, a lot of different challenges that realtors face on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially in my first role, right, it was really working directly with the members on the ground. So
Yeah.
interfacing, yes, with the technology that the board provided, right? So MLS technology, lockbox technology, and all of those things. But, frankly, and I know we're probably going to get there in terms of, my current role today, but my current role today is real. I'm excited about it because it was the piece that was always so challenging in the association world. And that's, when a realtor, a broker needs a solution for something, they have a pain point and they need it to be solved. One of the first places they call is the board, right?
Hmm.
Hey, do you guys know of any technology that can do X, Y, and Z? Or they go to conferences, whether it's any of the conferences, right? When we used to go to conferences live and be able to walk the trade show floor and check out all the new tech. And, what was always a bit frustrating for me is, there are so many great solutions out there. There are so many solutions and so many great solutions, that through a lot of those conversations, I really had an opportunity to learn, sort of by osmosis, what the experience of that transaction was, because there are pain points all along that process that are different for different people. To your
Hmm.
point, it's a massively diverse industry. And so for some people, there are certain aspects at the front end of the transaction that, they wish they could automate or do a little bit differently. And for others, those pain points come later on in the transaction. And it's really related to how you structure your business, what your personal approach is, how you build relationships, your own value proposition, right? And so, all of that really made me see that there's an opportunity for solutions all along that continuum of the transaction. But it really allowed me to kind of, appreciate what that experience was like from both sides of the transaction and through the eyes of real estate agents.
Yeah, and I want to ask you more about that, but it's, you just brought it up, and it's interesting. As I was doing a little bit of, we do our own digging as well, part of the show, and I had read somewhere that you had said, and I might flub this, so I don't want to say
Uh-oh.
this in quotes. No, 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 not bad. No, no, I would never. Um, I read somewhere, but
Uh-oh.
uh, cold calling and emails don't work. Now, I know you specifically were
Mm,
referring to when you're in your role as CEO
right.
of a board. Now, on a total selfish note, like from Mindshare, we totally wanted to know more about that and understand that better. That's the mindset, right? That's important because part of what we do in a day is we connect with a lot of the boards and a lot of the associations.
Hmm.
I mean, beyond just the ones that we work with regularly, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's it's good to know kind of what's the thinking there. But I know you went on to explain the whole thing further about the cold call and the email. But I wanted to ask, when it comes to real estate, when it comes to the business of real estate, and we kind of disconnect the technology from this part of the conversation and say some of these things are the hardcore hustle. Some of these things are like those sales characteristics that most people are not actually born with. You either got to learn them or you've got to trip over yourself
Totally.
or whatever. But do you believe those two channels are effective in brand building and finding new business? And I would say maybe answer that as the CEO hat on kind of thing. Like, and if they do work or don't work, maybe what was it that actually helped them work or stop them from working? Does that all make sense to you when I ask that?
It totally makes
Okay,
sense.
cool.
And you know it's it's interesting that you bring this particular quote up because now that I'm in this role, I cold call people a lot and
See,
I
that's what I'm
cold reach out
saying.
a
Me
lot.
too, right?
And And what I've realized is it's not like, I always thought, well, I'm not a salesperson. But the reality is we're all salespeople. Come on. We all sell ourselves, or we're selling something about ourselves. I don't care who you are or what you are. You're selling yourself to a prospective friend or a spouse or the person at the grocery store that you just want to treat, had to have them treat you really nice. But the reality is, there's a place and a time, and I think there's an art to it, to your point, David. I think there's a learned skill set. And look, I have the most amazing team right now. And I'll tell you how I found the director.
I think I have
Reach
the most
Canada.
amazing team.
Well, okay, we'll have to compare teams one day.
Joking,
we'll have to compare teams one day. But it all comes down to who's the best leader, right?
Yeah. I love it.
Little healthy competition.
Yeah, I like it.
But I didn't find, Mike found me. He reached out to me cold on LinkedIn. But what was really effective in that was he appealed to me personally. He took a moment, and it was really likely only that, a moment to really address something that was personal to me, right? He didn't know me from a hole in the ground. And it was like, oh, hey, Lynette, just doing a little bit of LinkedIn work and noticed your title. I didn't know Second Century Ventures had a presence in Canada, right? What was appealing to that? He knew who Second Century Ventures was. He recognized it was a new entrant into Canada. And he was like, oh, hey, I'm interested. So here's somebody that's already in tune with something that I thought I was going to have to build awareness for from the ground up in order to find somebody to help work with me. Because I knew that I needed somebody kind of in his space to help fill the gap I had. I was from the association side. I was not from the technology side or the venture capital space. And he recognized it. And so in those two sentences, he very clearly understood, he appealed to kind of what he knew and probably connected some dots. And so my comment around cold calling and, cold outreach doesn't work is when you're in, and I'll use, an association CEO, but I know I've heard this from brokers as well. Mm-hmm. When you're in those roles and you're head down and you're doing your gig every day, this really isn't my wheelhouse. Picking up the phone and listening to a technology company's pitch on the next greatest thing is not in my wheelhouse. I'm probably going to pass you off, number one. But number two, have you taken the time to understand my organization, my membership, who we are, what we need, where we're at, what our priorities are, what place we are in our budget decision-making cycle? And that really doesn't even take that much. It's a check out my website, go to my strategic plan page and see who my board of directors are. Like that's really all it would have taken for any of those companies. And I would argue it's the same thing. It doesn't matter what role you're in, whether you're a tech company and approaching a board or a broker, or you're somebody selling something else. Just get to know your client, because at the end of the day, they're not going to buy your product. They're probably going to buy you.
This is why I asked, because I knew there was more. I mean, I read the entirety of it, so I know there was a lot more substance added to it, but I thought it was an interesting question to ask, just as we embark on this sort of part of a technology conversation a little bit here, to kind of look at some of those fundamental principles that anybody can do from anywhere without being tech savvy or anything else. But there is an art around it. And totally. I love what you just shared on that by bringing that to light, because if we call you with the pitch, it's like I'm selling you air duct cleaning, right? Like enough. Yeah. Everybody's selling air duct cleaning. You just know when that phone rings, they want to sell you air duct cleaning. And that could mean CRM, that could be website solutions, whatever. Totally. It's all air duct cleaning. But if I call you up and I find out who you are, and I sort of dig a little bit more on that and go down that road without even going, here's what I want from you. Now your ears are going to perk up a little bit, and you might say, hey, you know what? I'm going to have a conversation with somebody. And I'll tell you, whenever we're doing the cold call, and I, for myself, and I still do it today, I still do it because I know how powerful it is. But the key there is that I'm not calling you to say, hey, can I tell you all about what I do? I'm not calling you to go down that road. I'm calling to see what I can help you with. But it's again, understanding Absolutely. Who am I calling and what am I calling about? And therefore, if I'm going to do 5 or 10 calls today, they're literally going to be 5 to 10 very different calls, because they're 5 to 10 very different people.
Absolutely.
And so understanding your audience is very important, no matter what marketing you're going to use.
Agreed.
Now, CEO at OnRep for 6 years. What provoked or what did you see, or even what hole were you looking to fill that really provoked you to start this new chapter with what you're doing
Hmm.
now? So leave the sort of board world and jump into this. And I know you shared a little bit about that just now, but you saw some opportunities, I guess. Because I mean, even
Yeah,
just saying how you said like Mike's the tech guy, it's not really that space for you, but this is a tech world.
it's 100% a tech world. And I think, the funny thing is sometimes we feel like we can assuage what we're looking for in wherever we are, right? It's just, if we would do this, then it would be better, it would feel better. And the ironic thing is, what attracted me into the real estate sector, like I said earlier, was around organizational development, and the structure of organization and how it works. And I still really find all of that appealing. What I realized over time is it's exactly that structure that doesn't work for me, because
Ah,
I'm an innovator and a mover, right? Like, I need to see forward progress. It's just how I am and who I am.
yeah.
And that pervades through my entire life. That's not just my professional life, right? And we need to be continually moving and improving and evaluating and innovating and doing things differently and testing the edges. Like, that's just kind of how I'm driven, and it's not the nature of not-for-profit associations, not just in the real estate sector. And I know we get really myopic in our space and say, oh, that's organized real estate, it's been like that for 100 years. It's actually kind of the structure that we've created around this industry, right? From a not-for-profit perspective, that again, it's really about a mindset. And so what I realized is, it doesn't matter which organization I worked for. It could have been the most progressive organization inside organized real estate. It probably wasn't going to work for me. However, again, this industry is treated me really, really well, saw all of the opportunity, saw all these areas for value creation. And really ironically, I made that decision for me, and so gave my notice to the board of directors. And literally, when I made that determination, within 60 days, I was approached by the managing partners at Second Century Ventures that just said, hey, we're taking a proposal to the board of directors to expand this thing globally. And if they agree and we go down that path, are you interested in helping us do this in Canada? And it was just like, it's literally taking that step back, realizing that, what you're doing now isn't, it's the definition of insanity, do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. But that something did come along. And it allowed me to actually fill that gap, David, that I had already always experienced inside the real estate sector as an association executive, which was, in my role, I can't help the industry innovate as quickly, as effectively, or maybe even to the highest degree or the best of my ability that I can, in ways that they want and they're asking for and they need, right? Because I'm in this structure that doesn't allow me to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What this opportunity allows me to do is exactly that. Is, for the first time, I think, at least on the Canadian landscape, not to say that there haven't been other initiatives, but there hasn't been a concerted initiative like a Reach, which is focused on, really one thing. It's bringing really great technology solutions, whatever those might be or need to be, into the real estate sector, specifically to enhance the business of the real estate practitioner.
Okay.
And that's
So
exciting to me.
yeah, no. I'm with you now. That's exactly where I wanted to go with it. Like, who's Reach? What do they do?
Yeah.
Why should realtors? And there was the one thing too. As obviously I got caught up on Reach, with you in previous conversations. One thing that started going through my mind, I go, okay, all right. So the audience, our audience today, listening to this show, what impact does Reach have on them? Why should they want to know
Mhm.
about Reach? How do you guys help realtors specifically? And again, I kind of know some of this, but I want to get this out there to the world to help everybody in our industry here, especially north of the border, understand what you guys are up to and sort of why they should want to know about you guys.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for that. I mean, I really appreciate it, because I know that, you've worked really, really hard to curate kind of your followership and, kind of your brand out there as well. And I think this is really what this industry is so good at, is help, I call it rising tides, right? Like,
Yeah.
rising tides raise all boats. And
Yeah.
so, it's really kind of the premise of what we do with Reach is, we help great technology companies, which are focused on helping the realtor do better business or help them do their business better, however you want to phrase that. And therefore, rising tides raise all boats. So take a step back. Who is Reach? So Reach has been around in the US since around 2013. And for those people that are listening that are familiar, NAR, so the membership organization in the US, fully capitalized a venture capital arm called Second Century Ventures back in 2008. And some of their first investments include things like DocuSign, which obviously now are very pervasive in our industry. But it was really through that lens of NAR wanting to ensure the future second century. So it was one of their 100th anniversary initiatives of the Realtor brand. And how do they do that? And they saw investing in technology as critical to that ongoing future success, which is why they fully capitalized the venture capital arm. Fast forward, how do you ensure that the great technology you're investing in gets into the hands of your membership, right? So that you can affect this, create a growth accelerator, because you have this beautiful captive marketplace of members that you're striving to help and support every day. How do you help and support them? You ensure they have access to great technology, and you ensure that that technology can continue to be supported in a way that it continues to add value to the real estate sector, right? So hence the REACH program was born, which is really all about scaling technology, great tech, into the real estate sector to add, augment the value of the real estate practitioner, the real estate transaction. So that program's been operating in the US since 2013. In 2019 is when the Second Century Board chose to expand the accelerator globally. And so the Canadian program, which we now run here in Canada, was part of that global expansion. So we're just in the process of accelerating our first group of 8 companies. And so what does that mean to the real estate practitioner on the ground? It means a couple of things, especially for the Canadian practitioner, I would argue. First of all, we really seek at Reach Canada, and we're in building mode. So for any of those realtors out there that have started their own business, got newly licensed, or they're a broker, there is a period of time where you're out there building your business, you're building your brand recognition, you're building your reputation. And we're really in that mode in Canada because we haven't been here previously. But our MO is all about scaling companies that help realtors the bottom line of their business. And that could be through a number of things. It could be directly through tools that agents want to adopt, or it could be through tools that facilitate the consumer experience, which as a savvy practitioner, you are able to share with your clientele to enhance their experience, which enhances your book of business as well. So we're really here, I would argue, as that clearinghouse for real estate technology. So if practitioners are looking to enhance their business through bringing more efficiency to their day-to-day, through getting rid of the low value things so they can focus on the high value piece of their business, which is building those relationships, managing relationships, et cetera. We are here to be that clearinghouse. We want to be the trusted resource that the real estate industry looks to, so that when they're looking for technology to help them solve some pain point or make their business better, they see us as that resource to approach, to ask about what those solutions are. But we're also here to be your partner. So we want to hear from the real estate industry around what those pain points are, so that when we are scaling companies, we're looking for solutions that are needed in the marketplace. So we really want to work with the real estate community through the associations, through our broker partners, through things like our pilot program that we're starting to evolve, to really work with us to refine the type of technology that you're looking for and that you need.
Now, you had said you were quoted another one here, but again, they're all good.
Where are you finding this stuff, Dave? I gotta watch what I'm saying. You're dating all this stuff up.
I got this buddy. I'll share.
This is
her name, his name. We're not really sure. In today's world, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Google. Don't spit out the coffee. So here.
damn it.
But you said technology really has no borders. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
great technology being developed all around the world that can benefit the real estate industry. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more. The possibilities are endless, and Proptech is an evolution like all of its own. Now, by the way, for anybody who's not familiar with the term Proptech, it is one small part of a wider digital transformation in the property industry, so in real estate. And this is considering both the technological and mentality change of the industry, and the consumers, and the attitudes of, movements and transactions, and involving, basically, everything real estate technology, let's call it, right? But I guess the question here, and that was sort of a definition for everybody about prop tech, but the idea, because we're hearing a lot about that these days. Without specifically naming companies,
Mm-hmm.
what are we seeing, especially from your guys' end, because you're seeing a lot of this these days? What are we seeing as some of the most exciting and or fascinating recent developments that, even ideas that are coming out of this space that are going to help agents do more business? So again, not
Yeah.
specific to like who, but more about what.
But what?
Is there a way to do that?
So, this is a really interesting question that gets posed to us a lot. And, I think a lot of people focus on buzzwords like, oh, AI and blockchain, and what are these exciting new it's the silver bullet kind of
Mm-hmm.
mentality, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and here's the thing, technology, like anything else, is evolutionary. It's not revolutionary, right? And there's also that kind of corresponding concern or sentiment that somehow technology is going to automate the realtor away, right? And we see this around the conversations about, Zillow and valuations, and, around iBuying and the rest of it. And the reality is this, the evidence, and so this is what we're seeing, right? The evidence suggests otherwise. The evidence suggests that the traditional homeowner on the buy sell side still need the guidance through that transaction. Now, what is evolving is, COVID has put a lot of things on steroids in the context of accelerating trends, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's been a beautiful opportunity to see evolution kind of in real time, right? Because evolution, you don't really notice it's happening. It happens kind of slowly and over time. And in some instances, we argue it happens too slowly. But COVID's really allowed us to kind of see evolution in real time. And so where are we seeing those trends? It's really in taking, again, those low level tasks that I think have not been super transparent to the transaction, right? It's stuff that an agent has to do. It's drive around all hours of the night to get things signed and to show houses and to do, meet people and all of this stuff. And it's really kind of taken that noise out of the system. So when it gets down to the brass tacks of what's really important and where are the pieces that, consumer needs guidance through the transaction, that's where technology is really evolving. So we're seeing things like more online notarization or online closings, right? Because we couldn't meet in person, for one, but we're also recognizing that that was just a lot of noise and a lot of additional low value work that can now be automated, right? Which means that the agent can spend more time walking their client through options, helping them understand the market. We have a really crazy market out there right now that's requiring a lot of explanation and a lot of managing expectations,
Back
right?
and
Because
forth,
it's
and
back
absolutely.
and forth.
Yeah.
That's high value time. That's all about relationship, building trust, building knowledge. And so really where we're seeing a lot of the trends, David, is around really removing inefficiency out of the transaction. We're seeing trends around bringing more effectiveness to that relationship and removing low value tasks out of the hands of the realtor so that they can be focused on their high value production activity, which is, again, around relationship building, building business, to a certain degree, even really refining their sales strategy around cold calling and understanding what their value add is for their clientele.
That is like major, like underline, bold that, caps lock it. Okay. I want everybody to really take into that. No, seriously, it's, you see, you're saying low level. And as you keep saying low level tasks, I keep going, like what? Right. But I'm hearing you. And it's amazing because you've gone almost opposite to what many believe are the low level. Many believe the low level is, well, I shouldn't be putting the data in the system. I shouldn't be putting the notes. I shouldn't be making the phone calls. I shouldn't have to post on social media. Yet amazingly, what we're doing here is we're talking about that. You're actually, correct me if I'm wrong here, it almost seems like those are the high level tasks. Those are the things that you should be involved in. And I'll say to you even before you answer that, I agree with that. We get to where we are today because of who we are and how we operate. And you don't become who you are if you don't operate and don't put in the effort. So, for example, if I hadn't made a point to call you or call the board a year and a half ago, I wouldn't have been connected with the nice girl who picked up, who wouldn't have told me about you because I didn't make the call. So I never had the nice conversation. So I never met you. Even if we met on stage, we didn't have that extra connection because it was just whatever. It was in passing. Yet the effort of what some believe is the low level, I shouldn't be doing. No, no, no. That's what we do. We connect with people. And now we can look to technology to provide some solutions on how we can be more efficient.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
I wanted to hit home on that because I think that's important. Sorry, for people to understand though, where, what is our role, right? Like we connected as human beings before we decided to do a podcast together, before we decided on it. We just literally connected as human beings.
Absolutely. And I think, and you use all of those strategies,
of course,
to your point, David, to connect as human beings. And I think, we often mistake busy work for productive work. And I'll never forget what one of my very first mentors in life ever told me is don't mistake activity for progress. Mm-hmm. So just because you're spinning for 16 hours a day, don't assume that you got 16 hours worth of productivity. Take a really close look at those things that you're doing all day long and really hone in on those activities that are moving the needle for you in terms of wherever you are to wherever you want to be. And I think that is, again, probably very different for different people. But I think collectively as an industry, low level tasks aren't about putting the information in the CRM. Because I got to tell you, you kind of balked the CRM thing. I was one of those people. Somebody else put the data in the CRM. Now that we're a scrappy little team of 3 people, I have to hold my end up when I talk to David and I'm taking notes about who he is and put that in the CRM. But you know what? That really helped me understand who David was, what his business was, what his pain points were, and where I could add value to him first and foremost and almost end stop. Because if there is ever value created between us in the future, and this podcast kind of came from it, I believe that this will create additional value, not just for both of us, but for the people that we hope to bring value to, right? And Absolutely. So, I think that's the piece that we often forget about. It's not the actual what you're doing, it's the value you creating by doing it that we don't think about.
And but again, there it is, right? Because if we don't take the look, I have this conversation with my team. They're like, oh, let us take that off your plate. I'm like, you know what? As much as I need you to, and I want you to, I should not have you do that, right? Because there's certain little things that I do that there's no way to translate that to somebody else to put into a system for me because it's going to be broken telephone. Well, plus if I got to translate that to them, why don't I just go do it? It'll save me time, and now I'll have the exact notes. And I mean, I use this as a joke, but it's not really a joke. It's very serious. But it's like, you make a phone call to somebody and you realize that they're just somebody that you never want to speak to again. But you kind of go with this opportunity where you track that note. You say like, I really don't care to talk to this person, or I don't like this person, but I'm still going to call. At least you know who you're calling. Or, oh, we had a beautiful conversation about the Okanagan Valley. And in fact, she told me her top 3 wineries when I go out there. Well, let me track those. Or she said she's going away and she's visiting wherever. Well, my next phone call is going to be like, hey, how was away and how was wherever, right? Like these are things that's sales 101. Okay. Forget totally. Mindset 101 for that. That's sales 101. And I think that, there's certain aspects of technology, again, that make us think we shouldn't, or there's certain aspects of busyness that make us believe that, oh, this is beneath me.
Yeah.
I really think everybody has to understand what some of those things are. And in fact, when we talk about that and we say, understanding how much power we do have at our fingertips and with all the technology that we have, what is the most important thing to keep in mind about this real estate industry? And we've kind of just said it.
It's 100% relationships, David, from my perspective. Like I even personally, I've never sold real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be in this position if it weren't for the relationships that I forged over the last 10 years, right? We wouldn't be on this call. We've said that before. But,
exactly.
But, I think the other part about this is, and we haven't really talked about this as a trend, but, one of the trends in technology right now is creating this kind of concierge experience, right, for the homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
And, I kind of want to just sort of throw this out as a little bit of a seed or plant some thinking around this into your listeners' ear, because I know a lot of them are practitioners and they're thinking about their kind of ongoing value proposition to their own clients, right? And, we think about, how much this industry invests in kind of that keep me top of mind piece, right?
We call it building mind share.
Right, building mind share. But building mind share is different than the calendar or the pens or the annual. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so there's that collateral.
It's a constant. It's a constant.
It's the constant, right? Yeah. But in this world that we live in, think about how partnering with technology, and I'm now not saying you going out and buying technology. I'm saying as an industry, how do you partner with technology to continue to help you forge and maintain your relationships, right? And so think about, as a homeowner, you sell me, you're a practitioner, you facilitate the purchase of my home, right? I buy my home with your help. Great. I'm probably in it for the next 7 to 10, right? That's the average, people my age, whatever that looks like. Mm-hmm. How do you maintain your relationship with me for the next 7 to 10 years? Because you want me as a repeat. And that is the reality of this business, folks, is your sales cycle is 7 to 10 years. And so you're already always building business. And this is why you do the cold calling. It's why you do all that stuff, right? But think about how you can now leverage technology so that you, as my real estate agent, continue to add value to me as I'm experiencing my house. What are the pieces of tech you can refer me to? How do you partner with technology firms so that they become my trusted my additional how do you help curate my board of advisors that helps me run my home? Wouldn't that be a cool concept? And those board of advisors are just different tech providers. Maybe they're the guy that it's no longer the plumber that you can call. Like this what used to be, right? Who's the plumber that you can refer me to? But what's the suite of technology that you can curate for me as my real estate agent that keeps you top of mind for me while I'm living in my home? And every time I use this tech, I'm reminded of you because you brought it to me. So I think it's incumbent on the real estate industry to think beyond just what helps you do your business every day. I think it's incumbent on the real estate industry to continue, but expansively consider how technology becomes your trusted partner and how you can add tech tools in your toolkit of retaining business and building your book of business. If that made sense.
No. You know what? It made a lot of sense. And I like the way you spun that, even from the constant of building the mind share, because I'm with you around that technology. And I mean, as you ask the question, you say 7 to 10. It's a very similar message I deliver around the fact that we're not buying milk and eggs, right? So this is something we will probably be in for the next 10 years. Right. I know that people get coached often, hey, if they haven't done anything with you in a year or 2 years, get them off your list. And I'm thinking to myself, no, we don't buy and sell real estate that way. It's a very different mindset. This is a long-term investment. And when we look at what are you really investing, you're investing time. From a dollars and cents perspective, I can tell you, stay in touch with one human being for literally a decade. You could talk 150 to $200 for an entire decade. So the ROI is massive, right? Now it's just a matter of what are you going to do, and how are you going to integrate some of the tech, and how are you going to integrate some of the personal touch point to be able to make it all happen. So when we think technology, and we think technology versus people, and we look around at the landscape over the past 12 months, where do we think our industry is headed over the next, sort of say 5 years? What do we see as some major changes, challenges, or even opportunities?
Yeah, that's such a good question.
And loaded for sure.
Yeah,
question.
Yeah, for sure loaded, because I think so much of where we see our industry going is, it's related to a few things, right? Like start high level. I'm a big funnel person, right? So start really high level. Of course, ongoing economic issues are going to impact the industry, right? And we're seeing this massive energy in the market right now, and for, various different sort of hypotheses around why that is. But that makes you wonder, if it's prolonged, are we going to continue to see, like, how are governments going to react to that is the question, right? And so how does that regulatory policy world affect kind of this industry? And it always has, right? It always has, and it always will. And I think, again, incumbent on the real estate practitioner to stay really in tune with that and be very informed and educated. This is now my association CEO hat on. We have an obligation to stay in tune on behalf of our clients, right? On behalf of our clients and on behalf of ourselves, to stay really in tune with what's going on, and not bitch and complain about it necessarily, but understand the underlying reasons and be able to react to that, right? So there's that piece of it. I think in terms of, really where technology is going to go, again, that's going to be, we're seeing, you provided the definition of Proptech a little earlier, David. And, again, relatively new term. I think like it jumped up on the scene like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But the reality is, it is a hot ticket item when it comes to capital that's floating around out there right now. And so, we see a lot of capital being poured into this thing called Proptech. And I think we're going to see the face of what Proptech looks like evolve over time. And it comes back to that whole question around technology without borders, right? Where is that capital really going to drive technology? And, and how are governments going to support or not support? And so we, as an example, we have a REACH program in the UK, and they're focused a lot on ESG, on environmental objectives, right? Well, all of our governments have complied with environmental objectives, and we see a lot of the capital really favoring some of those types of technologies that are focused on enhancing kind of the environmental quality around property, right?
And so does it include like that whole smart home technology type of thing?
Smart home technology, ESG technology, air quality, now we have COVID, that's a big piece, right?
Gotcha.
And so, I think, so there's an initiative around that as well. When it comes to the real estate industry and the practitioner especially, again, I think 2 things. This is where it's incumbent on practitioners to be just really savvy around what their consumers want. So get really crystal clear around what's driving consumer choice around home ownership, around home living, right? And be able to really address that need. But in terms of your own businesses, again, I'd really encourage you to look at your day-to-day and make some decisions around where technology can help you offload your low value so that you can focus on high value, because it's massively competitive and the landscape continues to shift. And so, if you ever catch yourself saying, I'm too busy to educate myself around the industry, get in tune with my customers, build my book of business, think about those things that you're too busy doing, because chances are there's a great piece of tech out there that you can already adopt, or we'd love to hear from you, because if there isn't one, we would love to be able to curate one and bring it to the market, because you identified a real pain that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and I think that oftentimes, and in fact, later on this week, I'm going to be doing a session on that at the Buzz conference around managing your time. If anybody saw the promos, we're going out there, but yeah, exactly. No, you know what it is, because it is a very common issue around time management, and I think that there's a double-edged sword there. There's one edge that says, on one hand, you've got to do a better job managing your time and understand where you're spending it and why you're spending it in certain places. And that, to the thing we said a moment ago about having that long-term plan, that's really what we do with our coaching program, is we walk people through that exact step by step to go, look, long-term outlook, where are we at? What should we be doing? What are those low and high value duties that we have, these responsibilities every single day? When we're managing this right, where can we, now that we've managed our time accordingly, being able to maybe free some of it up or pay attention to what you just said, what can I do to bring something on to help me? Right. I mean, I don't know, there's lots of problems out there when it comes to, how we run our business and how can we be more efficient? I mean, I don't know. What do you see as like that next big thing that needs to be solved at this point then, maybe in the more immediate?
Yeah, I think, that's a really interesting question. I think, because the market is, so buoyant, or as buoyant as it is right now. And I think because like this one is such a fine line for me to walk, and I know I should have a canned response. I just can't be a canned response person.
That's okay.
It's raw, real, personal for me almost always, David.
Yeah.
But I think, the next big thing that needs to get solved is, as an industry, as a real estate industry, we have such an immense opportunity to really support the real estate practitioner in a way that, not just adds massive value, but just makes this industry kind of like a force to be reckoned with, because it is the largest, by dollar value, it's the largest industry that we have in our economy in the world, right? And so, the real estate practitioner should be able to capitalize on that from the perspective of being seen with that sense of elitism. And I think as an industry, we kind of need to get out of our own way around the whole, cooperative competitor kind of mentality, and really see how, again, through this rising tides lens, we can really, as an industry, capitalize on a lot of that value creation that's out there right now, right? And so how do we break down some of these barriers that we have, whether it's through, the association structure and the lack of information sharing? I think, the whole data component is a really interesting conversation, because it's something that we've held near and dear to our hearts as a real estate industry for a long time. But the reality is it's out there. We're kind of just, we're perpetrating something that is really not a reality anymore. We've kind of created this idealism around our head, and it's what creates this kind of us against them mentality. And I don't think it is an us against them mentality. And so when you look at what the big corps like Zillows and Compasses and, Redfins are kind of doing out there, they're adding value based on a real demand. Consumers are demanding the type of things that they're providing. Embrace that, follow that lead, eat some of their lunch. You have a step up as an industry. You're organized, you're coordinated, you have the structures in place, right? And so rather than kind of having this view of, us against them, how do you embrace that? And you put that in your toolbox so that when you're working with your customers, it's just one of the tools in the toolbox rather than a competitor that you potentially wouldn't share information around, right? So I think becoming a bit more transparent amongst ourselves as a real estate industry, embracing that rising tides raise all boats, and that the consumer wants something different today than they wanted. They don't want something different. They want the same thing, but they want to be able to be a part of that. They want more information, and they want it sooner, because it's the type of environment we live in.
Well, that's where I was going. Like, access to information. I mean, David, where did you find all these quotes? My friend Google, right? Like,
exactly.
Our kids know that. My daughter's 7, my son is 10. They've got a question. They don't even type this stuff. They click the button and they talk
to it.
Google talks back to them, right? Like, we didn't grow up that way. They are growing up that way. So then to say to them, well, yeah, that information's out there, but you don't have access to it, it's not normal. And so that's where these companies have come out and provided access. And this is where people do have issues with it. And look, when this first started, we compared it very quickly to, you own a car dealership and somebody comes up and says, hey, can I put the car on the lot, but I don't want you getting in a piece of this thing. You kind of go, no, that's my lot. You can go put it somewhere else. So I can understand some of that argument, but it being what it is, and that adaptation, that need for that adaptation and kind of working with where we're at, let's talk about remaining relevant, right? How does an agent, in the face of all this technology, how do realtors in this industry, how do they remain relevant with all this information? And I mean, look, I could go online, I can find out whatever I need. Do I need you? Technically, not right now. I can call the other agent and go see the property myself. Do I need you? Not right now. There used to be a time, and when we'll talk about, high level and low level, there used to be a time where people actually had to go present the offer. And we could say, well, hey, it's more efficient now than back in the day when they said, hey, you could fax the offer, which quickly, went obsolete and became an email, which is now that the electronic document signature companies, right? the access to be able to do that kind of takes us away from some of the important things we should be doing, where we look somebody in the eye and we present the offer properly and we do the emotional pull on the heartstrings and let them know the buyer's in the car on the driveway with a check, as opposed to, all offers are being submitted at 7 p.m. tonight, yet everybody's submitting them at 5 o'clock yesterday. Like, it's become a crazy part of the world. And so when we, again, look at the tech that's available, I guess my message to the audience is always, right, know where to use that and know why you're using it. Don't just implement it, because the more that you put it in between you and your client or the consumer, the homeowner, the more that this stuff is in between and the more we are empowered to be able to do what we want without the agent. And I think that for the survival of the industry, it's important that people understand, look, leverage the tech like we've been talking about, find where you can help it make you more efficient, but also keep in mind that there's something that's very important here, that this human aspect of, this human element is crucial to the process.
Well, and I think, frankly, it's the piece we've lost sight of as an industry, David. The human element.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
And just how critically important it is, right?
And that's the thing that gets me with the tech. And that's why I love this convo today, because it's that thing that says, look, it's there. You got to know where it fits. It's not just let it just take it all over.
So I think in terms of relevancy, and this is my personal opinion, I think, the relevancy for agents is even more, has an even bigger place and will continue to grow if agents can set themselves up even more as not just the trusted advisor around their home sale. It's getting savvy around what it all means, right? So to your point, I can go get in all the information I want. Do I have the skill set? Do I have the experience? Do I have the knowledge to synthesize it and understand where it all fits, how to compartmentalize it, what's the priority, what I ought to be considering, how it compares, right? And you relayed a story to me before we came on air today around, this crazy market right now, and, hundreds of thousands over asking and not capitalizing, and how we take that experience, we translate it into a different action, which is like a relist as opposed to a relationship conversation about what to expect and how to appropriately price. And you know what? I would argue that would be done better automated, right? That whole conversation, if we would take the human element out of trying to figure out market supply and demand and valuation, and let people's decisions price the market and find that the balance, the equilibrium between supply and demand, but as the trusted advisor, help set expectations for both sides, right? Help set those expectations. And here's how we're going to come at it. And here's the best way you're going to maximize your dollar. And here's the best way you're going to maximize your value out of your purchase, right? And also be able to curate the pieces of technology that are going to help them through that process, right? I think that's the place where the real estate agent really has ongoing value, because I don't think it's being done really well right now. And it's not the fault of the industry. This is from my perspective, really where we're at, is technology has outpaced our ability to adapt and adopt as humans. And so we have way more access to technology and information, and in some instances, not enough access to the right types of information to leverage technology in the best way. So we're a little bit off kilter in terms of where technology fits with that human element, right? Should I adopt it? Shouldn't I? I don't really want it to displace my job, but what is my job, right? And I think this is the beautiful opportunity that this really lends the real estate industry, is figure that out. Really get in tune with what the environment looks like. What is the value you bring to that transaction, and double down on that, right? Double down on your human value that you're offering, because technology is going to come and go. Different things are going to get automated. Some things are going to go back to being manual that are automated now because it's not done well. Some things are just going to, some of the things you do today are just going to go away, right? Like they have already. And like the fax machine, like it's just going to go away. That's a reality. What didn't go away was your ability to be that expert, to be that advisor, to be the knowledge center that you're bringing into that transaction.
Wicked way to answer that. And I think that hits it right on the head. It really is about What are you bringing as the professionalism, as the expertise? What can you do to explain it to
Totally.
me? Because if I look and say, where's the importance of the agent? Could I list this place and sell it on my own? I could. Would I do it as well? Probably not. Would I understand all the little nitty gritties of the conditions and the clauses? Probably not. Could I get myself in like a whop load of trouble? Yeah, pretty
Probably.
easily. And could that cost me a lot of money? Yeah. So when I look at it and think to myself in terms of, remaining relevant, I think that again, there's an aspect of how much technology are you going to embrace? Much the same, what technology you're going to embrace and
Totally.
why, and how is it going to help support your efforts, and you support it. And now you walk in
Absolutely.
and now you got all guns blazing, right? Like you got your superhero tool belt. It is loaded up. You got the tech side of things, the importance of the people side of things. And now you're going into there and you're now a force to be reckoned with. It's
Absolutely.
not one or the other in today's world.
No, absolutely not. And it's not one. So you're right. It's not discrete one or the other. And it's also a continuum, right? It's a continuum. You're going to move up and down that spectrum of how much tech, how little tech, how much information, how little information. And I mean, and you might move up and down, not because you choose to, but that's because how things are evolving. It's how the consumer demand is changing. But I think, from my perspective, the more we understand that it is a continuum, but they're both necessary, that is like freedom. That is like just, it's an invitation to figure out where you fit on the continuum. That's
Yeah, and to
all it
take
is.
advantage of it,
And take advantage of it.
right?
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's not like you're a bad person if you don't adopt, the right CRM and the right, listing at whatever that is, right? You're not a bad person. You just, it comes back to the you do you, but recognize that both are necessary. You have to bring yourself, you have to genuinely invest in yourself and in your personal brand and everything you're bringing to the table. But there's also going to be a need for technology because you're going to work with people that demand it, right? And so you need to figure out where that fits for you.
Which comes right back to the people element of understanding who the people are. Tell me how do you know it's been a successful day for you? What do you measure as success in a day? I love asking this
Yeah,
question because there's so many different answers, but there's always an underlying theme.
yeah, and so I'm so curious what the underlying theme is, but
Well,
I
I'm
love
not
this
going to tell you
question.
until you tell me
I
first.
know, I know. I love the question though, because I can tell you what this week's experience was. So
Yeah.
again, I have the most amazing team. And we tell each other this all the time. Like,
I'm
I
not
can't
laughing at
believe,
you.
like, we say this all the time. I just can't believe that, like, we have such a great team. We're just so jacked to be
Yeah,
on. We're
so
so
nice.
grateful for it. And we were having the conversation the other day. We got on a call as we do Monday. And so the rest of my team is an hour ahead of me. So they get about an hour jump on the day on me. So but I'm an early riser, so I've already been at it and I've been doing my thing. But we get on and it's like, how's your day going so far? It's like, I'm having a great day. And Mike's like, you know what? Like, I was just saying this to Mila last night. You know that you love your job and you love what you're doing when you can't wait to get away from your computer at the end of the day to go and tell your partner, your kid, whoever, how great of a day you just had and download all the stuff that made it so great. That's how I know you've had a great day, is when you just want to, like, when you really want to puke about your whole day to your family and your dog and anybody that wants to listen because it's been so awesome. So that's how I know I've had a great day.
No, I like it.
I
And
like it. And
I'll share with you that underlying theme is really all about the, helping people, loving what you do, building relationships. The interesting thing, and I guess the bigger macro to the underlying theme is that nobody, not that I can remember, and I've asked a lot of people this question on the show, nobody ever answers it by saying I did a deal. Oh, I lost your volume there.
Hello?
There you go. So nobody ever says it's because they did a deal.
Or how much money I made today.
Right. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It's always about how much I love what I do. It's always about help. It's all about relationships. Anyhow, interesting insight there. Final question here. What last words or tips can you share for everybody that's tuned in, be it on the live or on iTunes or anywhere else you're listening to it, for our audience to help themselves get out there and build some more mind share? Just some parting words for everybody.
This is such a great question, David. I mean, I could definitely plug, everything about, I will. I mean, parting words, you're in the real estate space. Technology is, prolific. Check out Reach Canada. We are here to help this industry. And again, in the notion of rising tides, we really want to be that hub. And so if you're at all interested in this, connect with us, right? We're always looking for people to, be mentors, provide us feedback, do pilot programs. So there's that component of it. But beyond that, my parting words are, think about the value creation opportunities that you have today, right? Where can you add value? And I think if we all focus on the areas we can add value, really easily we see the place where technology fits, and where we have, where we are really where we will continue to have relevance in the future around that whole question of relevance. So I think if everybody just took that opportunity to step back, get really clear on where your value add opportunities are, that's where we're going to see this industry really accelerate.
Lynette, where can people find you?
At Reach Canada at scv.vc, which is unusual, so it's .vc. You can find me at Lynette at scv.vc. I'm on LinkedIn. I am on Instagram. That's where you can find us.
Cool. I encourage everybody to check out, go learn more about Reach. Go learn what they're up to. They've got a cool umbrella of different organizations that work with them. When we talk about technology, there's a lot of opportunity there to learn a lot more. Lynette, this has been a great show, great insight into sort of the mix between the tech and the people business that we are in, with a focus today on obviously that whole Proptech topic. But, it never ceases to amaze me how it all still circles back to being a people business.
Yeah, it's why you and I love what we do.
Well, that's it. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you downloaded our free Industry Syndicate podcast app, or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call to learn more about what you're looking to achieve and, how I will help you do just that. Also, don't forget our push to 100 is on, so be sure to go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, leave a review, and rate us. And I want to thank everybody in advance. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. I want to once again thank the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Do not forget to follow the Buzz Conference at the Buzz Conference on Instagram, and either click the link in their bio or visit thebuzzconference.com to stay in touch with everything the Buzz is up to. And of course, I want to once again thank Kit's Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked us out yet, just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.